I actually bought my very own first incubator ever. Like an incubator that somebody else made, not me. And I saw all these cool ads and Mike Wilbanks talking about his incubators, and I was like, they really look good. And I was like, I think I need another incubator. And instead of having all these ghetto baiters that I like to use, I went to the top shelf. I went and bought a Pro Series Mike Wilbanks incubator, and I'm actually going to tell you what I think about it. It's beautiful. It's glorious. I am so friggin' impressed with this incubator. This is my temperature set, and that's the chamber temperature. It's a little bit down right now, but it's been holding wonderfully at 88 degrees. And it has, let me show you a couple of the features.
Oh yeah.
In the back, we have a false wall. So the false wall starts at the top, goes down to the bottom. Behind that false wall, we have an airspace, and in that airspace is the heat source. So I have fans. These fans are drawing the air in. So they're drawing air from the bottom, from the third, from the middle, all the way up, and they're drawing that air in, and they're passing that air over a heat panel. And that heat panel is going to gently warm the air, and I do mean gently, because I've been playing with this thing. I really, really like this. And what's happening here is I'm getting a really consistent temperature of 88 degrees. And that is critical. So a lot of times incubators can go up and down, and that's actually common. And I love this thing. So it's got open shells that are movable. It's got its own LED light in it. Mm-hmm. And you know what's awesome about this? Critical. During the summer, it gets really hot at Nerd. So hot, it actually kills eggs. And it has a compressor, so it actually can cool. So if I tell this thing to do 88 degrees, and my room temperature is 94 degrees, like it sometimes gets, the compressor kicks on, no more heat, it's going to start cooling. That is awesome. I love that. So I'm really excited about that, because I really have to step up and do some adjustments. Second, if you want to cool, let's say your colubrids or your rattlesnakes, you can actually hibernate your animals and brumate your animals in here. And you could put them in here. You could shade the whole front, although it's a beautiful glass front, which is awesome. And it's very insulated too. This is a double pane. So you could put everything in here, and you could hibernate turtles, rattlesnakes, Gila monsters, whatever. So I really like that. So this is like the kind of one does it all. This is, I think, when I was ordering, I noticed he has different size incubators. I went for the largest. I went for the Pro Series. It had all the bells and whistles, which clearly I need. But there's these incubators are smaller for like gecko eggs and all the different stuff like that. So it seems like Mike has actually really gone full tilt. This can actually handle 64 little shoebox clutches. So you can put 64 shoe boxes through here. So very, very important. When you have these fans moving here and you're moving this warming air, you want to make sure that the temperature down here is the same as here and it's the same as this. So I sat here and I played around with my temp gun, and oh boy, everything was the same. So I was loving it. I was going down there, I was going up here. So you want to make sure that the clutch that's at the proper temperature here will be the same as that. That is key, because a lot of times there's not enough movement of air, or there's too many things constraining it, and what that does is we get dead spots, hot spots, cold spots, and stuff like that. And this is great. So I love that. Secondly, I wanted to make sure my temperature was actually telling me the reality. So I've been heating up this water so I want to match this thermometer, which I know is correct. It's in a liquid base, and I'm going to match that up with my temp point. And there's also a way to adjust this. So if the temperature, let's say, was a little bit off, I can actually recalibrate this. It's great. So looking at the instructions, it actually does a lot. This is definitely pro. This is like the top of the line, and I'm really impressed. So actually, now let's talk about methodology. Let's talk about actually incubating eggs for success of different species, and I want to show you some things that people do wrong. Egg incubation. So when we're doing egg incubation, we're putting the eggs in an environment that we can control that is managing temperatures. So whatever the species is, obviously different species need different things. If it's, you know, a crested gecko versus a reticulated python, a Bolin's python, whatnot, they all have their own importance. So you need to make sure you understand the parameters and actually rely on viable information about temperatures. Okay, so once you've achieved the temperature, which is an incubator, a great, wonderful incubator, the objective of that incubator is to provide a stable set of temperatures. So a good incubator, make sure you understand that, and you also know what the temperatures of those eggs are. Then it comes down to substrate. So the importance of the substrate is the hatch media, where your container holds material that has moisture, and the moisture is available for the eggs. And the eggs, since the eggshell is permeable, there's a membrane, and then there's all this calcium peppering it with all the little pores, and it exchanges with the atmosphere. So it releases moisture, takes in moisture, as it releases CO2, takes in oxygen and whatnot, okay? So it's this permeable thing. So you have to provide substrate that is consistently giving the moisture that it needs. That you can also ruin it by making your material too wet. So what's going to happen is they're going to supersaturate with moisture, the eggs will swell up to the largest size, and if they continue to remain wet, the embryonic development ceases, the embryo dies, and you have failure, you have dead eggs. So what do I like for a substrate? Right now I'm using Hatchright. Almost exclusively I use, if I'm using any kind of hatching material, it's Hatchright. So Hatchright is perlite with water crystal, but when you buy it, you get it, and the feel of it is great. It's got this moisture base. It's very, very safe. Another thing you do is vermiculite. I never measure out everything like that, but when I do vermiculite, I start introducing water, and I'll bring enough water in there where if I make a ball and I start breaking it apart, it easily comes apart. And it's much easier to save an egg that's too dry than too wet early on. I've got 3 eggs. I got Hatchright. Is this ideal? No. First of all, I don't have an air hole. But how much air hole should we put in there? Well, this, I could put multiple air holes, but you know what? I hate this. I hate this. This is not the way to do it. Let's look at another one. I have some tokay gecko eggs. Okay, so these guys take about 88 days to hatch at around 86 degrees. I got some Hatchright in here. Donnie, do you see all my air holes?
See them.
Lots of air holes. I hate it. It's not the way to do it. Failure. How about this? Now these eggs don't look really good because somebody put these eggs in material that was too wet. They became too saturated with water, and the bear dragon eggs died. So, but I'm using this as a reference. So what don't I like about this? Well, I got some Hatchright in here. I got some air holes. God, I'm doing everything. I'm going to put it in the fancy Wilbanks super incubator. And if these eggs were good, would they succeed? Nah. I got these reticulated python eggs. Okay. I got air holes. I got some material. These eggs are pretty darn big. Pretty darn big. Why isn't this good enough? Well, all of these share the same problems. So right off the bat, I'm looking at this container, and you look at all the air holes. Right there. That is a great deal of ventilation. How much ventilation should I have? A little bit. I like a little bit. So I got some panther chameleon eggs right here. This container is pretty much packed to the top. I keep moss like even under this lid when I'm not showing. So I would take my moss, put my moss back, and I like the moss because I'm kind of monitoring the moisture of that, but I want this a solid mass. This thing now actually has some weight. Believe it or not, there's panther eggs in here, and these things take 3/4 of a year to hatch. Notice my air holes. Do you see any air holes? One.
Just one, huh?
One air hole. That is all you need, okay? Secondly, I have a fair bit of material in here, and these eggs are buried down deep. So what happens if I put my panther chameleon eggs at the top, and there's any atmosphere like having any impact on these eggs? Those eggs on the top, if my air in the incubator is dry, those eggs are going to start succumbing to the the lack of moisture in the air of the incubator, and that can actually pull some of the moisture from the eggs. So what I do is I like to bury my eggs down here with a lot of material over them, and that way humidity down deep, that's why turtles and everything and monitors lay their eggs down deep where the humidity and the moisture stays constant. So down here humidity is constantly right. I'm not really losing much moisture in here because there's only one little air hole, and what I can do is I can open this thing up, and if I feel it's maybe, you know, maybe a little too dry, I can spritz it, shut it back. I don't have to worry about any of the water touching the eggs, and I can put them back for almost a year in my incubator. Right here. So with this material, that's good. That's, see right here, when I'm doing this, just kind of flaking. Vermiculite would be the same, all right? A little bit of moss in there. So I like to reuse my material. So, okay, this, for my retics, so the material's good, the volume, I want volume, I want mass, because the eggs are going to pull the moisture from the material and they're going to help the success of that egg. Way too many air holes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take tape and I'm going to cover all this and leave one little air hole, okay? Retic eggs take about 88 days to incubate at 90 degrees. So what I like to do, good little trick. Well, when the eggs start hatching, the albumin and all that stuff can contaminate this. So what I do is if I get a clutch of eggs and I notice everything's dimpling in and maybe I get my first slit, I'll take the entire clutch of eggs, put it into another bin or a bigger bin with a little bit of water, and I set it right on the water. And now they can hatch over the water, because when babies come out, a lot of times one of the first things they want to do is drink. So that little baby snake will come down there, dip its head there, and it can drink. It's a nice way to reuse my material and be thrifty, because hatch right's awesome, and you can keep on rehydrating it with more moisture, and it lasts a long time. Okay, now let's take a look at this bin. This bin has one crude air hole right there. Lots and lots of material. This is heavy, heavy, heavy. Okay, so I can take eggs, incubate these. In this case, these are mangrove snake eggs, okay? Mangrove snake eggs are kind of picky. So just like green tree python eggs, they can be very picky. So a good little trick I can teach you is if I take this container and I hollow out an area, hollow out this area. So if these were green tree python eggs, I don't really often like to have my green tree python eggs on this material. They're a little sensitive. They really appreciate humidity, but they don't do well being always in contact with that level of moisture. So what I do, I'll take moss, and I think my moss is going to be a little bit drier than this, and I'll put, yeah, the moss will be like a well wrung out washcloth. And I'm going to make a nice pocket. I'm going to put my green tree python eggs there, and I'm going to put a little bit of moss over there. And green tree python eggs at, let's say, 88 degrees will take 47 to 52 days typically to hatch. But what I'll do is I'll take my eggs here, and then I'll bury the whole thing with moss. So once again, it's a solid mass, and it's providing an opportunity for those animal eggs to pull the humidity when they need it. So many times people do the mistakes where they don't put enough material in there, there's too much ventilation, and the egg is going through this little period where it gets moisture, loses moisture, gets moisture, loses moisture. That will certainly cause mortality in your eggs and also the developing embryo. That is very, very key. You want consistent temperatures, Wilbanks incubator, and you want consistent humidity. Very, very important. That will give you far better success. If it's tortoise eggs, if it's frill dragon eggs, whatnot. So back to these guys, because a mangrove snake, these eggs will take about 90 days to hatch. And sometimes I have multiple different clutches. So you got some eggs down here. There's a bad egg right there. That's a nice looking egg. I don't generally mess with the eggs too much. Put the moss back over. I incubate these guys at 86 degrees. Ball pythons, I like to incubate around 88 degrees. Reticulated pythons, 88 degrees. Very important. People don't know this. Eggs make their own heat. People don't know this, all right? A lot of people don't know. They actually think the snake is like a python is twitching, and it is causing muscle contractions. It's burning through calories. It's creating heat. It's actually not what's going on. What's actually happening is the eggs, as that embryo is developing, they're using calories. Calories is a measurement of heat. So the eggs are actually generating heat, all right? And what the animal's doing is cloaking over the eggs, and it's holding that humidity and the heat within. And that animal is its own thermostat. So that reticulated python is trying to get it to 88 degrees. Let's say that's optimal. If it gets up to like 91, 92, the animal's going to open up its coils. It's going to let the heat from the clutch that the clutch is producing dissipate. If it starts drying out, it might really wrap really well. If it's getting too cold, the snake actually may leave its clutch or the burrow, go over and heat up, and then come back and transfer it. So let's say those eggs cannot, I think I'm seeing a 3 to 5 degree uptick, what an egg at the most can do, 3 to 5 degrees. So if a room temperature was 80 degrees, I might see eggs at 83, in the greatest case example of like a python clutch, 85 degrees, but they easily can bring it up 3 degrees pretty easily. So let's say the snake is sitting at 80 degrees and it wants to be 88 degrees. That might be a little bit too challenging for those eggs to get that hot. That snake may crawl off, go bask, come back and transfer some of that heat, and then basically manage that heat in that mass. We can actually go look at a clutch of python eggs. We can temp gun the snake. I can peel away the clutch, her coils, and we can temp gun the eggs to see what's happening there. Redfoot. So here we are, redfoot tortoise eggs. Here's an egg that really appreciates humidity, but if it's too wet, it will die. And a way to always provide humidity is another way other than burying it and doing all that stuff. But remember, mass is critical. So here's another trick. Got a clutch of redfoot eggs right here. So if you want to know what hatch right is this. Right out of the bag. Right out of the bag, I can take this, pour it in there, put my redfoot eggs in there, and duplicate what I'm doing, and you'll have really good success. So they've taken all the guesswork out. Here, the eggs are now sitting in hatch right. Okay? Now they're floating in a solution of water. Look, Tony. Look, water, Tony.
I see it.
Look at it.
You giving away your secrets. What are you doing?
Okay. Well, I want people to succeed. So anyways, then what I do, I put this lid on there because the little redfoots could pop that lid and drown. And then right here, and of course, always date your eggs. So all your egg boxes, date them. And so let's say I say, okay, redfoot eggs are gonna take me 150 days to incubate. I like to start looking at those eggs maybe at 125. So I look around maybe 90% of the hatch of the incubation, and then I start looking at the eggs. So if I have water monitor eggs that are going to hatch at 6 months, I might start looking a little bit shy of 6 months, start watching those eggs and see what they're doing. And that way, if we have any complications or anything that hatches early, like a preemie, at least I'm aware of it. 'Cause some of my clutches are very, very unique and important to me that I would just cry if I overlook something, and I continue to make mistakes. Here we got, this is a Sims container. So you can put water, so you have this false floor. I'm using water crystals right here, so we don't slosh them around or whatever. So use water crystals. And then, you know, the thing with water monitor eggs, these suckers take like 6, sometimes 7 months to hatch. So these are getting really close. So these will probably be hatching in the next couple days. And they'll be really, see how swollen that one is? And as they get close to hatching, they'll start releasing some of the moisture, and you might start noticing the container will start sweating. This one is already dimpling in. You can see this egg is starting to stress. And what they do is they release an enzyme in there that actually helps the animal cut through the egg easier. So I want to show you something that is wrong. this Sims container. See that one, Donnie?
Yeah. Well, it's all.
Okay, here we go.
It's all wet.
Wait, okay. Big, fat, no. See this right here? This is how you kill eggs. See that? See the roof?
Why is it like that?
Because it has air holes on the top, and guess what I did? There's nothing in it. I put another container on it. So remember where your location of your air holes. So these are the couple air holes. On the side would be better. I put another container on here. It sealed this up. And I noticed the whole cage was sweating. So what happens? If you start seeing all sweating on your side of your ball python clutch, of your panther chameleons, your bearded dragons, bad. Bad. We don't want that moisture to collect on your eggs. It's too wet. That's too rich in humidity. That is a surefire way for these eggs to die from bacteria. If you see your eggs turn green, often that's Pseudomonas aeruginosa. You can get fungal infections and stuff like that. So this is certain death. Dry it out. They got the moisture available, and it's at the bottom. So if you don't use little Sims containers, you can use these. Well, this is actually a really cool little way to incubate leopard geckos. So you put water, that's ingenious. Water, you got this little thing right here, and you put there, and you make sure you date your stuff, and that's an awesome little product. I like these. That's cool. Hatchright made some hatching boxes for you. So this is a nice little way to do the whole thing. This is also another Lagarde. That other little incubator hatch box for the leopard geckos was Lagarde. So that's more hatch material too. So you can go right to your local pet store, get it, order it online, but really supporting your local pet store is always what I encourage, because when they're gone, you're gonna miss them. Okay, so this is some monitor eggs. So what I do is I'm floating these just like the redfoot, but you notice the bin itself doesn't really have much for ventilation. That's it. It's that little hole right there. But the bin right here, now we're talking. All those air holes. That's awesome. So what I do, I just put a lid on here. I do this, I lock it up. And you can even see right here, laid 9-2, check 3-2. So, and I like to start checking a little bit early just to make sure. So remember, some of the basics with egg incubation. Constant temperatures. A really good incubator is key. I'm in love with this thing. I need like 5 more of these. I am so thrilled. I wasn't even kind of expecting it. I actually ordered it on a whim, so I was very, very impressed. The packing was excellent. It came in flawless. The amount of money that they're putting into just the packing is pretty amazing. I'll tell you another thing. When you're incubating eggs, and if you use the method which I usually use, which is I use a thermostat, and I take the thermostat and I put it into a bin full of material, and that creates a dummy box. It's completely full of material. I put that probe in there, and then I tape the whole thing shut, and then I put that in my incubator. And wherever I put it halfway down, and that becomes the standard, and it will try to manage the temperature of that bin to whatever temperature I tell it to do. If I take that same thermometer probe and I stick it in a clutch of eggs, what's wrong with this picture? Problem is, the thermometer is monitoring a bin with eggs that are making their own heat, and that does not represent all the other bins, because I might have redfoot tortoise eggs in there, I might have all sorts of other different eggs. So put your probe, if you're using the other style of incubator, in a dummy box that actually has humid, moist material in there, and that is key for your success. I hate to do this to you, Mike Wilbanks. I have a complaint. Your incubator has a flaw. Really not like really anything big, but guess what? If I want to lock this sucker,
He's gotta get down on his old man.
no, I don't. Here it is. I am like a gymnast.
Shut the fuck up.
So see this right here?
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, if that's the only con.
That's it. But look at these shelves. Even the bottom. Oh, I got another trick. I forgot. Okay, big trick, guys. See this bin of water?
Seeing it.
Always, especially if any empty space, I always include bins of water in my incubator, because what I'm doing is I'm increasing the humidity of all of the air. So the air that's constantly going around, I want to laden that with moisture. So what this does, this helps prevent, you know, when you're doing something and maybe it's just not, you overlooked a clutch and it started drying out or something like that. This slows the whole process down. So instead of having the dry house air that's dictating, you know, all the humidity in here, I shut this, and in a little while the whole sucker gets warm and the air in here is humid. Obviously these egg boxes make things humid, but this is extra, and I do it in all my incubators. It's a good trick. My theory is eggs make the temperature, the snake acts like a cloak. Let's prove it. All right, guys, let's see. What's the temperature of this cage? 79.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm gonna go inside here. 81. She's... Can you see that? 85?
No, it's not. So 85, yeah.
Yeah.
She's 85?
Yeah, 85.6.
Okay.
No, you can't see that?
No, I can see it.
Okay. All right. So she's wonderful. So this is maternal incubation. She's wrapped around eggs. And the theory is the snake jitters, burning energy. That burnt energy creates heat, and that actually helps incubate the eggs. Her relationship with the eggs is chemical. She smells the eggs, and that is her bond. Let's take a look at what the actual temperature. She's a wonderful snake. I love her dearly. There's some eggs. Can you see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right now, 87.4. Let's see. What was her? Yeah, I'm getting, what was 85.6?
Mm-hmm.
All right, because her coils, now my thing's really 85.7. 86. Let me go up here. Oh, there we go. 87, 80, here we go. 88.4.
That's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. She was, she'll periodically crawl off her eggs. So they'll heat, but I've had clutches of eggs where I've gotten like 3 or 4 degrees. We can go look at another one. Yeah, definitely. I mean, right here, her body right here is 84 degrees. So the eggs are also warming her body, right? Improve that. The cage temperature, 82. Her body is 84, right? Right? Mm-hmm. 84. And that's a little bit warmer as she gets closer to the eggs. And the eggs are even warmer still. Yeah. So the heat's coming from someplace and it's not her. Okay, that's 80.3, 80.1, right?
Okay.
86. So the eggs are warming her up. Come on. I've awakened the monster. Let's take a look. Come here. 87.9. So essentially 88. So these eggs are heating her up. So once again, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, 80, 82.1, 86, 87.2. Yep. So the eggs are heating her up, and she's a cloak, and she's protecting them. She'll hold in the humidity and all that, and the heat. So the cloak is an insulating cloak that holds the heat that the eggs are creating. All right, guys, I hope everyone enjoyed today's incubation and incubator video, some of the do's and the don'ts. Please do not overlook this video. There's a lot of really good information here that's taken me a very, very long time to actually understand. There's a lot of variables and there's a lot of subtleties that are really, really important. And I'm gonna give a shout out to Mike Wilbanks and his new incubator, because Mike, if you're watching this, or if somebody please tell him to watch this, your incubator is awesome and I want more. So as always, follow Evil Morph God New England Reptile on Instagram as well as our Facebook. And thank you for following us. And as always, we appreciate your support. And everybody make sure you're aware, we're going to be going to South Africa soon to do some really gnarly stuff with Dingo Dinkelman. And I'm really excited about that. I'm going to actually have to leave my building and I don't know if I'm going to survive being away from Nerd.
Stop saying that because I'm going to go with you.
No, survive. Like,
I don't want to die.
I'm so stressed out. No, I'm just talking about, yeah, being, shut up.
If you die, I die probably.
Okay.
All right.
That's true.
I got to turn my camera on, dude.
You didn't turn your camera on.